So at one of the Sunday masses, I shared this story, but I'll share it with you as well. Sometimes the teacher that you remember through life, and probably teachers here, you probably have these very special teachers that formed you. Usually, they're not always the easiest of teachers. Sometimes the ones that truly form your heart, form your mind, and make you great are the ones maybe when you have them, you're thinking, please, Lord, let me have any other teacher besides this one right now because they're too tough. I had two different versions of teachers. We'll call one of them Phil, and we'll call the other one Dave. So Phil was a super easy teacher. And I figured out how to work his system. He always used multiple choice. And you could kind of come up to him and say, Mr. Phil, I don't really know what this answer is. He's like, well, let's think about it. What do you think? Well, I'm thinking it's A. He's like, well, not so sure about that one. I'm like, okay, not A. Well, I know it's not all the above. And I was like, yeah, it's never all the above. Okay, it's not that one. So I'm kind of between B and C, and I'm kind of leaning towards C. And he's like, well, maybe lean the other way. I'm like, Mr. Phil, I understand what it is. It's B. He's like, I knew you had it in you. And, you know, it'd be sort of a fun game there, but as I look back, it was a very easy class, but I didn't really learn anything. Because I just kind of went through that, and I just kind of got whatever I wanted. And at that time, I thought it was awesome. I was like, yay, Mr. Phil, he's awesome. But as I look back, I'm like, I don't remember anything from that class. But then, there was Mr. Dave. And I actually used to, behind his back, call him the Evil Dave. Because he was tough. He was you guys might not know about this, but it's like AP English, which is advanced placement, you're getting ready for college. It was my senior year. And we had to write these very difficult papers and all this really difficult stuff. And the first time we got our paper back, guess what I got on it? Most of the time I'd get like A's and B's and things like that. I got an F. And I'm like, what's up with that? And then he said, well, I want to teach you how to write for college. I want to teach you how to write in a way that your stuff can be published. Because we were writing poetry, we were writing other different things. And he's like, that just wasn't anything really good. That was kind of fluff. So he's like, you can stay with that grade if you want. You can go the easy way and just fail. Or you can keep working at it, turn it in again, and it might go up. So I did that, turned it in, and this is all within every single week we had to do one of these things. And I turn it in again, and I get a D. I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Well, at least it's not an F, but it's a D. I'm like, this is painful. He's like, keep working at it. It's not ready yet. I want to teach you how to write. And there was part of me that just got so mad at Mr. Dave. But as the year started to go on, I started to realize that painful process, he was the most difficult teacher that I ever had in my entire life. And that's in college, and that's anywhere. But he's the one that taught me first how to write, how to read more deeply, and ultimately how to write poetry. And I look back and I say, he was my greatest teacher. But during the time, I hated being in his class because it was so painful. So on the human level, if you have a difficult teacher right now, and I know our teachers are awesome because they're demanding, you should, even though right now you might be like, I don't like this, I just want to play video games and not do all this homework right now. But you will look back, if you stick through it, and especially if you have a tough teacher right now, you will learn great things. Your heart will be formed and fashioned, your mind will be sharpened to be able to write powerfully, to be able to think deeply, to be able to do amazing things. And you will look back and say, actually, my greatest teachers were some of the most difficult ones that I could imagine. But I didn't understand it at that time. That's what's going on with Peter right now. Jesus is saying, Peter's tired. And right now his name is Simon. He has to mend his nets and all these different things like that. And Jesus comes up and says, yeah, Peter, I know that you've been working hard at this, but I want you to go out again. I want you to go into the deep water. And the deep water is the area that, that's where you get seasick. That's where, because you're just up and down, you're just unstable, all these different things. And Peter at first is like, I don't want to do that. That's tough. It's just like my professor saying, here, you can keep working at this, or you can take it easy and not grow in greatness. But he says, at your commands, I'll go out. And so he goes out, he gets this amazing catch. And it's something that moves his heart so much that he says, I'm going to follow you. I want to leave everything and follow you. So this idea of put out into deep water for an amazing catch. You're not going to get that catch in the shallows. You might easily catch one of those little tiny bluegills. Have you ever been fishing and you're just like, you can see all the fish that's right by the shore? And you're like, hey, look, I've caught 10 fish. Because it's the same fish that I just keep putting back in there, and then it gets the worm, and then I pull it out, take it out, put it back in. But if you want to get the big fish, you have to go deep. And maybe you're not going to catch anything else. You're not going to catch 20 different of the same fish. But you're going to be able to go real, real deep and get Bubba, biggest fish. That's what Christianity is really about. We have the freedom to just coast in our relationship with God. But God doesn't want that. Just like he didn't want Peter to just sit there mending his nets, he wanted him to go out into deep water. Just like my teacher said, you can just kind of coast through, but you're not going to become great that way. Unless you really, really go into it, kicking and screaming, saying, I don't want this. And yet, it's the very thing that we need, because what the Lord wants to do is he wants to remake us. He wants to renew our mind, our heart, our desires, everything that we are. He wants to, in a sense, say, I'm not content with you just being a horse, being able to jump over fences. I want to make wings sprout out of your shoulders so that you can be a winged Pegasus. But you know, that probably hurts. I don't know about you. I haven't had that experience before, but imagine if you had wings just sort of sprout out of your shoulders. Do you think that would hurt? Your shoulder would have to like open up, and then these things would just have to start coming out like that? Imagine if you were a horse. You'd probably be saying, no, I'd rather just run. I don't know what these weird things are. And yet, once they're there, and you start realizing you don't just need to just jump over a fence, you can fly over a forest. But you would never experience that until you went through that suffering, that trial of the cross, in order to experience the glory of the resurrection. So be courageous in Christianity. Don't settle for coasting. Just like in your classes, don't settle for coasting. Go deep. Suffer. Struggle into the course. Struggle in your faith. Go deeper. Even when you say, I really don't want to do this. Think about every single athlete who's great. They probably went through that experience of, I don't want to run. I don't want to do push-ups. But because they went through it, they were able to do things that they couldn't even dream of doing. So that's the greatness of your call in Christianity.